Welcome to episode 4 of By Daylight, Be Useful. In this episode, we'll talk about the best advice I have about being useful during your partner's pregnancy. This will include a bit of a recap from last episode and some more general day-to-day advice that I found useful during Madeline's pregnancy and that I still found useful to this day. This will be a bit of a shorter episode, so hopefully I won't be rambling too much. Episode Joe, you're crushing it. I can't wait for this one. Take it away. Thanks for the encouragement, intro me. I appreciate it. Now, let's get right into it. The advice from episode 3 can be distilled into 3 main points. First, try to attend as many doctor's appointments as possible. Be engaged, ask questions, discuss the appointment with your partner before and after. Second, listen without providing feedback. Sometimes your partner just needs to expel the events of the day or get out some feelings and they just need a sounding board. They often don't need feedback, they just need to feel listened to. So listen and ask questions, but don't tell them how you would have handled something or how you would have felt unless specifically asked. Third, asking the question, what can I do to be useful in this situation? Either to your partner or to yourself, will put you on the path or at least trying to start solving a problem. This question really lets me focus on what I could control and sort of ignore what I couldn't, and really helped me focus on what was most useful at any given time. These 3 points really helped alleviate a lot of Madeline's overarching pregnancy anxiety and let her know that I was there and she wasn't facing anything alone. Beyond these 3 points, I have a few more pieces of simple advice I found to be useful in day-to-day life. Much of this centers around relieving the mental load of daily life that we all face. With Madeline being pregnant, she was already dealing with everyday life stress with the additional physical and emotional stressors of being pregnant. So I figured the least I could do was try to tackle more of those everyday mental load problems that we all have to deal with. Now, the first piece of advice centers around helping Madeline meet her daily goals. Such as one of the major daily goals Madeline had was just to be active. And especially as she got into her second and into her third, that became difficult as she was more tired and just wasn't, the mental hurdle was much higher for her to get over in a given day. So in order to help her be active, I would just remind her, hey, and ask her like, hey, did you want to go for a walk? Did you want to go for a bike ride? Did you want to do yoga? Or did you want to do any of these things that you normally do? We can do them together. And now this was also good for me. As I mentioned earlier, I was, hanging around 400 pounds. So being active at all was very, very useful and very good for me. So doing this together really helped relieve her mental load for the day and again helped her feel heard and seen, and that this just helped and it continues to help to this day. About if she has a goal, I ask, hey, do you want me to help you do this together? And with this kind of support, it really helped her with how not having to be thinking about this every day because she knew I had her back. Now, the next big thing was that, daily chores loom over all of us every single day. Cleaning, dishes, laundry. These are all things that are sort of passively on your mind all day. You might not be actively thinking about it, but you could be kind of dreading it in the back of your head. Now, Mel and I never really had a set system. Just if someone cooked, the other person would do the dishes. Or if you didn't have a shirt you wanted that was in the laundry, you did the laundry. Now, instead of that, I tried to take a more proactive approach to the daily dishes, or daily chores in general, excuse me. When I would cook, I would also just clean as I went and just say like, oh, don't worry about the dishes. I'll do those as well. And when laundry, if we accumulated enough to have to do a load of laundry, I would pop a load of laundry in and instead of just waiting till I was out of shirts. Now, this again, the passive sort of dread that we all sort of feel about having to do dishes or clean or whatever, being a lot more proactive took a lot of that off of her plate as something to worry about passively. And it turned out it's really, if you're just proactive about it, it's fine. I actually came to not even mind it at all and definitely not dread it. The only exception being the mountain of clean, unfolded clothes. This, to this day, is something that Mal and I will often have to go back and forth on who will finally break and fold. But, we're not all perfect, so I'll get there eventually, I'm sure. Not having to worry about chores really let Madeline relax more fully after work. Now, this next suggestion might be a little bit controversial, but stick with me. Unless it is going to completely change the course of your relationship, it is not worth arguing about. You may disagree with something simple and find the disagreement is escalating, and it is in your best interest to diffuse the situation as soon as possible. Madeline and I very rarely get into arguments, but while Madeline was pregnant, this seemed to crop up a bit more. And I'm normally a pretty extremely stubborn person and will die on any old hill, so you can see how that might be an issue. But luckily, we both recognized that both of our emotions were running high and our hormones were running differently. And so it was best to sort of, as we saw something escalating and a disagreement building, to just nip it in the bud as quickly as possible. More often than not, this just meant me being like, you know what, you're right. Let's just drop this. It's my bad. And if it was something I really did not necessarily agree with, I would just sort of try to diffuse the situation and then talk about it later when we both had a little more time to process everything and we were a little bit cooler. This really helped smooth out any rough communication patches that we had and made things go much, much smoother. And finally, what has proven to be a surprisingly powerful piece of advice is to simply have an answer to the question, what do you want for dinner? This question has come up so much more in my life than I thought it would, and has caused so much more friction than I ever thought it would, with people often saying, I don't care, what do you want? And then there just being a standoff. So I kind of learned pretty early to just have a couple things, ready to go. If we had nothing planned for the night, as if I didn't have any plans to cook, we weren't going to go anywhere, I would try to notice if Madeline had said anything throughout the day. If she said, "Oh, we haven't had pizza in a while," "Oh, we haven't had Chinese in a while," I would just sort of remember that. And then when the time came, I would say, "Oh, let's have pizza." And more often than not, that would surprisingly work well. But what also worked was if she didn't mention anything, I would just have two or three options just ready to go. Like, oh, we haven't had this place, and this place in a while. Do any of those sound good? And almost every time, without a fail, one of those would get chosen. If you truly don't care what you have, just have a couple places ready to go to just say, and that really, really smoothed out any kind of another point of disagreement that we could have. And we always would end up someplace that I knew was good that we both would like. So I think this is about it for the quick and simple advice that I would have to be as useful as a partner you can be during pregnancy. I hope that you found something useful in there. I know it wasn't, anything too crazy, but it will be surprisingly useful for you. Next episode, we're gonna go into a very scary amount of detail about how we got through Madeline's labor, so that should be fun. Looking forward to seeing you then. Bye bye.